That's what I'm trying to protect you, my dear listener, from is getting into that brain space where you are so overwhelmed by the things that are not going quote unquote perfect in your life, that toxic perfectionism that often comes as a result of high demand religion or really ingrained belief systems that are in place because of it's the way that we've been doing religious traditions for eons and eons and eons. Unpacking Mormonism is a subsidiary of Daisy Girl Communications, LLC. All content herein is intended for educational purposes only and does not replace the advice or counsel of your personal care provider. I'm all by myself today. Hello and welcome back to Unpacking Mormonism and Other Religious Trauma. I'm your host, Sarah Westbrook, and I'm all by myself today. Y'all, we've had some medical emergencies in our family, and then life has just kicked our ass the last few weeks, and Mason and I have not found time together to record together, and then our birthdays are only 10 days apart. And so we are actually leaving the country next week. We are going to be going on a cruise to the Mexican Riviera, and we're not going to have enough time to record together before that trip. And so I told Mason, I was like, I's the boss. Therefore, I will go ahead and record something because the recording studio is in the same building as my private practice, so it's really easy for me to just hop on over here and do this. And I said, sometime in the future, I'm sure there's going to be a time where I'm not able to join in, and I want to make sure that you're comfortable and our audience is comfortable knowing that we will do our best to bring you content on the weekly schedule that we have set. We want to make sure you're getting new content, and that if ever I'm out of the office, that, Mason can feel comfortable recording without me and kind of being the top dog in charge. And since I'm so comfortable talking so much, we'll go with it this way. We'll see if I can, make it a little shorter today as well, because I'm a talker. If y'all know me, I'm a talker, but I'm just not sure that I can actually produce 90 minutes of content when there's not a whole lot of discussion. So anyway, one of the things that's been going on in our home recently is that church attendance is something that Mason has identified as valuable for him and our family. And I wish that he was here, and maybe we can follow up with this at a future podcast. But Mason really enjoyed his experience within the Mormon church of having that faith-based community as a youth, as a child, to have that outside support of learning morals and values, having that reinforcement from other adults on how to be kind and generous and serve. And I agree with him. I think that it's really good for our kids to hear and learn lessons of morality from people other than just mom and dad. And so, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and I absolutely embrace that idea. And so as I've walked away from the Mormon church, and as our children are still kind of undecided, I've got my younger kiddos, because of their special needs, the Mormon church structure and framework really does not work for them. They are very uncomfortable with the idea of being mostly still for like 2 hours. And side note, I get that. It's hard for me as an adult. Obviously I've got mild ADHD. I don't necessarily need medication to manage my ADHD. Maybe I do, but I don't take it, because I feel like I function really well without it. But my youngest two kiddos, especially, well, even my youngest three, sitting still and being told to be reverent and engaging without a real break for 2 hours is a very unreasonable expectation for them at this phase in their life. Their frontal cortexes are not formed enough to be able to do that. They need a lot of body movement. They need a lot of interaction. They need a lot of tangible touching and art projects and running and moving in between. And the way the LDS church is structured just does not provide that. And hey, Mason and I might need to do a podcast in the future on that, because my kids are not alone in that, and neither are adults. I mean, when the current Mormon prophet Nelson announced that church was going to be 2 hours instead of 3 hours long in that block, I was fucking relieved, y'all, because I was tired of trying to make that framework fit my family's needs. You know, I have said many times, I've got 3 kiddos with some special needs, 2 very severe special needs kiddos. And I've watched other parents struggle, you know, other parents with kiddos either on the autism spectrum or with ADHD or some other disability, where holding their bodies still for that long is just unrealistic. Kiddos need to move, and that's well documented. You know, when we look at school structures and preschools and those types of things, frequent moving breaks are important. And when I was serving in the primary, about the only moving break that our children got that I would say met that need might be through singing time, singing active, motion-oriented, getting your whole body involved songs. But that was a very short, brief time. There's not a lot of movement going on. And so my youngest 3 kiddos are really uncomfortable in a Mormon church, because when they go, they feel like they're constantly in trouble. You know, they sit with us through sacrament meeting and they're wiggly and we're constantly shushing them, and we bring them puzzles and quiet activities. And it's not within their capabilities. And then primary is just not structured for, Mormon primary is not structured for active, mobile children. I would say even neurotypical children, it's tough for most of them. But then you add in some of these extra special needs, it's just overwhelmingly frustrating. So want to put that out there in the world. And so my kids don't want to go to the Mormon church with their dad. So as Mason attends the LDS services, he generally goes with 1 or 2 of our teenagers who still enjoy the social aspects of the youth group. So our family has been looking for a new church community that we can align our values and moral standards with, but that also doesn't utilize shaming techniques in their preaching and teaching. We want to be in a community that, in a faith-based community that allows nuance, that allows us to be individuals. We really want a faith-based community that is open to hard conversations, that embraces, you know, the emotionality of humanity. And loves you when you're different, and will still embrace you and accept you in that community when you disagree with some of those teachings. Because frankly, as we've left Mormonism, one of the things that Mason and I are trying really hard to establish in our children is, within our family, we do not all have to be on the same page within our religious or spiritual beliefs and practices. We can all be different and still live harmoniously, and interact with each other in really healthy and connective ways. We want to make space for nuance within our home environment. And as we reach out to these other communities, you know, the schools or a church community, we want to see that as something valued in a church community. And so we've done a lot of church hopping over the last few months. And what we've discovered, or what I've discovered about me, I can really only speak for Sarah Westbrook because Mason's not here. So let me speak for Sarah and maybe share a little bit of what the kids and what Mason has shared with me. And that is, I really struggle with the churches that identify as Baptist because there's still a lot of shaming going on in their preaching. And I really struggle with that style and that belief system. There's still a lot of push in the literal Bible teachings rather than the symbolic Bible teachings. And frankly, when it comes to the Bible, there are pieces of it that really resonate for me from a moral perspective, and other pieces where I'm like, yeah, that's fucking bullshit. And no, we are not going to, attack a bunch of kids because they made fun of you for being bald and call that godly at all. And I mean, I can go on and on and on about especially Old Testament stories that are really icky, but also a lot of the things in the New Testament that make me scratch my head and go, I don't think so. That's not healthy. That is not what I am aligning my belief system in. And so I'm taking the Bible and even frankly, there's still some scriptures from the Book of Mormon that resonate within my soul as having truth to it. And so I'm going to keep those things that really resonate for me and teach those symbolically, but also recognize and in discussions with my children or my friends or my peers or whomever it might be, that can be very nuanced and that there's limits within what we're talking about or, subject matter and scripture. So we've pretty much nixed the Baptist faith. And if you're a listener and you're Baptist, no disrespect. If it works for you, embrace it. I'm just saying it doesn't really work for me or my family, and that's okay. And so then we've made a shift to non-denominational Christian churches. There was one that we went to that gave me creepy crawlies, and I was like, oh, hell no. And then a couple of them have been like, well, I've really liked this, but it's been like 50-50. Like I like 50 and I dislike 50. And so we've been kind of going through this church hopping and we finally found one here in the Osage Beach area. Mason has attended, I want to say 3 or 4 times with the kiddos. And then I've gone once. I've gone twice. And so Mason, me, and the kiddos have gone twice. And then I think Mason's gone 1 or 2 other times without me because I was out of town or I was at home with sick kids. And so far, it's been a really positive experience. And then actually this last Sunday, we sat in their Bible study, their adult Bible study group, and we were just overjoyed that group was all about asking hard questions and kind of addressing that there's been a lot of really icky things going on in the Bible or within Christianity in general, that Christians have done some really shitty stuff in the name of God and that's not okay. And how can we look at that and separate that and grow and become better? And so this church really seems to be jiving with us. And so for those of you that are local listeners and want to know what church we're talking about, it's the I'm going to mess it up. You watch me screw this up. I think it's the Church at Osage Hills. It's a non-denominational Christian church. And as of right now, the environment seems to be really positive, and it's starting to, kind of where we're able, like, okay, we can mesh here, and here. But there's still this one teaching that we are hearing and that I have now heard in every church that we have gone to in this church hopping experience that I really want to address because it really bothers me. Now, so far, this is the only thing that is bothering me in the newest church, and it's something that we can talk about and work through.
The mighty and resilient Merrimack River, carving through the communities of our great region. My name is Linda Lorden, proud president of Merrimack County Savings Bank. And like the river that serves as our namesake, we're a constant yet ever-changing presence. Because to us, it's bigger than banking. It's about powering communities and putting people first. It's about knowing where you came from and where you're going. That's Merrimack style. Visit us at themerrimack.com.
Hello, sorry for that interruption. I don't know if you heard the ding dong in the back. That's my office coming off, and my oldest son, I'm sorry, not my oldest son, my oldest son living at home just walked in, and he's going to have lunch with his adopted grandma. So if you hear some background noise, just know that that's family being family in my office. It's a very friendly place. So anyway, one of the things that we have heard now in every new church is that we are broken and we need a Jesus to fix us. And that really grates me the wrong way. And I'm going to explain why here in a minute. But first, I want to go back to, I can attend a church where there's some, teachings that I may not align my values with entirely and still feel very comfortable in that church environment. I'm not looking for something that I agree with 100%, but I'm looking at something that I'm able to then have at home discussions with my kiddos and say, hey, what are you thinking about this? How might you rephrase that? And so I want you to know that as we attend churches, and something I would encourage our listeners to do is to really dig in and have open dialogue with your children or with your spouse about the things that you hear and are learning that you really embrace and align your morality and your belief system with. And then also the things that maybe rubbed you the wrong way, and support each other in that. Because I've got one kiddo that's like, well, I get what they're saying and it doesn't bother me. And then I have another kiddo who thinks very much like me, and she's all about, nope, that's bullshit, I'm not broken. And hearing that really aggravates me, and it actually makes me really mad when I'm in the main sermon every time they say that. And I can't just say, hey, I don't like the way you're phrasing that. I feel kind of trapped and I don't like it. And so we're able to now shift so that child, that the main sermon where they teach that on occasion and she can't respond or react to it out loud, we're able to shift things. And we've worked it out at the church that she can volunteer in the children's room during that main service and then just attend the Sunday school portion where she feels more comfortable. Because in Sunday school, when they bring it up, she'll be able to say, hey, I don't like that analogy, this is why. And then that will give her the experience of being able to have an open dialogue and having her voice heard. And I absolutely love that. So one of the things that I think is really going for a lot of these churches that the Mormon church never gave us is an ability to say, attending church in the way that is prescribed doesn't work for me, so I'm going to attend the pieces that do and shift and serve in the places that feel most comfortable for me so that I'm getting the most out of my church experience and I'm able to engage in ways that are valuable to myself so that church service is uplifting and connective, and I feel like I belong. And unfortunately, in a Mormon service, it is very prescribed. In fact, so the person I'm talking about is my 14-year-old daughter, Katie. She really struggles being in meetings where she cannot speak out and talk and process about things that are being taught. So the Mormon sacrament meeting, or the main service for a lot of the Baptist churches and these other Christian churches that our family has attended over the last several months, one of the things that Katie has discovered about herself is that format makes her uncomfortable. And what she would rather do is help out with the little kids. Like she's like, I love serving and coloring with kids and building Legos with kids or holding babies or playing peekaboo while that main service is going on so that the people who want to be there can be, and whatnot. And during these non-denominational or these Baptist services, they have the child care throughout the main meeting. Mormonism doesn't do that. Kiddos are normally in what Mormons call sacrament meeting, which is their main service. That would be like similar to Catholic Mass, or what we're seeing is called main service for most other Christian denominations. But in Mormonism, one of the things that Katie struggles with is that she doesn't really like or feels like she belongs in the co-ed Sunday school. Katie's got some trauma going on for her where being in that co-ed place and having a male teacher is very overwhelming for her. And so we reached out to our local bishop and said, hey, on those Sundays where it's the co-ed Sunday school after that main meeting, Katie would like to serve in either the nursery or primary because that is where she's most comfortable. But then if she's attending on a Sabbath where the Sunday school is with just the girls, with the female youth leaders, she would like to attend the youth. Does that work for you? And he said no. He said the policy is that the youth have to attend their youth classes. They are not allowed to serve in other places. And unfortunately for Katie, that means that she's not willing to go back on a day where she will be forced to be in a co-ed classroom with a male teacher. And I'm not going to share the trauma that occurred for Katie early on in her life without Katie here because it's not my story to tell. But it is something that really, as I'm squirreling and kind of moving around here, it's something that really bothers me about the Mormon service is that policy over health and wellness is one of the issues that I have with the Mormon church. And I did not, Mason would have to, I wish he was here because then he could, say, hey, this is what I said to the bishop and this is what our bishop said back, because Mason said that the bishop's response was very gentle. It came from a place of love. But even though it came from a place of love and even though it was gentle, Katie is not comfortable attending a class with a male teacher when she does not have an adult female in the room because of her trauma history. And the Mormon church is basically forcing her. If we were attending, then there's basically this, I'm going to call it soft force, because they're not like picking her up and dragging her in. But if she is caught anywhere else in the building and not in her Sunday school class, she would be chastised, redirected. She's been kicked out of primary. Like they won't let her go to primary. So she was just showing up in primary and helping out. And now there's a leader there that's kicking her out and saying, no, you have to go back to your classroom. And the leadership in the Mormon church is supporting that, even though we explained, hey, it's kind of traumatic, she's uncomfortable, and if you want her to attend, which she, of all of my kids, she still wants to attend the Mormon church because she has found a community of peers there that she loves and wants to interact with. And they're not letting her do that in a way that is comfortable for her because the policy says no. And so in a way, they are forcing her into what we would call, in my field, exposure therapy. But it's being done in a way that would actually perpetrate and expand her PTSD response because of trauma at the hands of an adult male and at a young male that occurred very early in her life. And so her attending this co-ed class with a male teacher with no adult female in the room perpetuates trauma. And they don't care. The Mormon church does not appear to have any desire to empathetically engage with that and shift their policy so that Katie feels safe, which for me, I'm not willing to worship a God or a Jesus that forces you into compliance of a policy over accepting your limitations so that you feel safe and can then, as you feel safe and comfortable and work through those triggers, engage differently into that co-ed space, or even be able to speak out and say, hey, you probably need a male-female teaching team for those youth that are uncomfortable for whatever reason, whether it's because of trauma or just because it makes them uncomfortable. And unfortunately, again, Mormonism does not do that. But these other non-denominational Christian churches and even the Baptist church were like, we don't care how you show up, if you're serving, if you're whatever, we just want you here and we want you to feel the love of Jesus. And I definitely appreciate and embrace that difference as we've done this church hopping. So that's kind of that side note there for my daughter who is not comfortable being in an educational setting where she does not feel like she can raise her hand and say, hey, I disagree with this, or hey, can we talk more about that in a healthy way? It doesn't work for her. And we as her parents, Mason and I, want to support her in finding a community and a system that allows her to be heard. Because if you don't feel heard, if you feel silenced or ignored all the time, you're not going to be able to engage in any type of learning or growth because your fight or flight mechanisms are going to be on, which means that your frontal cortex is going to be compromised. And in order for us to learn new skills, we have to feel safe, comfortable. We have to feel like we belong. We have to feel loved. We have to feel connected with the instructor in a healthy manner so that we can learn new skills, gain understanding, become creative. Like these are things that I'm constantly falling back on as we talk about these things here at Unpacking Mormonism and Other Religious Trauma. I feel like that this is going to be a really good discussion for our Facebook page, either the group or the Facebook page, whatever one you're reaching out to. We would love to hear your insight on this topic of, policy over mental wellness or even physical wellness. So let's just say policy over wellness. And allowing people to engage in spirituality or religion on their own terms. We would love to see that. So the person who starts that conversation in our Facebook page will get free Unpacking Mormonism or Daisy Girl Communication merchandise. We've got some water bottles. We're getting some t-shirts created. We're going to be creating a t-shirt with our RAID acronym and worksheet printed on the shirt. We've got some hats and we've got some keychains with flashlights. So we're starting to build that piece up. So if you want some free merchandise, head over to our Facebook page, Unpacking Mormonism and Other Religious Trauma, or the Facebook group that is by the same name, and start a dialogue there for some free merchandise about this topic, about being coerced to engage in ways that are uncomfortable to you versus engaging in spirituality in a way that resonates for you and feels safe for you. And share your experiences if you feel so inspired. We would love to hear that. So anyway, back to this teaching that I really want to dig into and I really want to challenge, and something that Mason and I might actually do a Sunday School with Sarah and Mason episode on as well in our live show, because I feel that this is so important. And that is that one of the teachings that I really disagree with is that we are broken, that our shortcomings, that our failings, that our challenges, that our struggles are because we are in a broken state. I call bullshit on that. And I call bullshit really, really strongly. Like there's some intense pushback going on inside of me. And that pushback, I feel like I need to be defensive. So let's kind of use the RAID here. I feel defensive. I feel this like my body almost wants to posture. Like I want to kind of puff myself up and make my chest and my body look bigger. Like I've got this little person, like little dog, like big bark mentality going on when people start saying that you are broken. I'm getting in this like physical defense mode. I feel a lot of energy, especially up in my shoulders, and my fists kind of clench, or I start talking with my hands with a lot more physical motion. And I feel this need to advocate loudly with my words. In fact, there's so much pressure there that I tend to talk over people when this happens, which maybe it's a good thing Mason's not here, because he wouldn't be getting a word in edgewise today because I'm on my soapbox. And that's okay, because what's going on inside of me is that I'm wanting to defend those people who feel like they are less than or feel like they are broken and need some outside source to fix that for them, or even when we talk about an inside force, and maybe that's Jesus, I'm still going to push against that. And I'm going to explain why. I don't want people to feel broken. And so there's that defense mode. I want to jump out and be like, you're not broken. Let me help you understand what's going on, because I'm so passionate on helping people function better and feel happier and get into these places of joy and understanding themselves so that they can become better. This comes right back down to my motto, which is learn, grow, become. And so I find myself posturing and getting in this defensive, advocating mode so that I can teach all of these people that are hearing this that that's just not true. It's just not true. And I'm happy with this response in me. I feel like this is very healthy for me. And so accepting it and being able to speak out about it actually brings me great peace. And I feel like it has helped me really create strong relationships with people that I'm able to walk them through what I'm about to talk about with you here on the podcast today. And so what I want to say is this. When we teach somebody that they are broken, we are falling into that shaming trap. So remember with our Brene Brown, Mason and I have this Brene Brown hero worship thing going on here at Unpacking Mormonism. But one of the ways that Brene Brown has taught that you can identify a shaming statement from a statement that might bring feelings that will inspire you to shift direction or make changes in your life is shaming statement, I am bad, versus non-shaming statement, I did something bad. When we say I am bad or I am broken, the way our neurobiology works is freeze. It's stagnation. It's we pull inside of ourselves and we feel helpless or trapped or overwhelmed. We feel less than, we feel less worthy. That's why I don't like it, because just the statement of we are broken or you are broken that is so commonly taught in the churches that we have now attended in our search for a new church, it's a shaming statement. And it puts us in a place of emotional vulnerability where we feel less than, and we need this authoritative group to fix us, the organization. And I know a lot of people are going to say, no, we're turning to Jesus and my God can fix this and my God this and my God that. And I'm going to say, whoa, slow down. Let me finish here. Because if I see in me, hey, I'm behaving or thinking or feeling in a way that's not working well for me, that's keeping me kind of stagnant in my life, how can I reach out to my spiritual source to address this but we eliminate the statement of you're broken because of this, you have so much more power to shift your perspectives or your belief systems or your behaviors or your mindset into a way where you're actually achieving this personal growth in you. When you can shift away from I am broken and into this isn't serving me in the way I want it to, if you choose to reach out to a higher power to engage differently, your neurobiology allows you to connect with them in a more meaningful way that increases spirituality while fixing the things. And see, here I am using the word fix. I don't even like that word. Damn it, Sarah, let me rephrase. While achieving your full potential, while becoming who you want to become, while showing up for others and for yourself in a different way, because you are working from a place of identifying need for improvement rather than a place of shaming yourself and needing an outside source to fix you. And so that's the very core of why I hate this statement of you're broken and you need Jesus to fix you. We have research and data that demonstrates that people who identify and connect with a higher power in their journey to self-improvement, they generally do so in a way that is more sustainable, healthy, and that brings them happiness. And whether that's Buddhism, which, oh my gosh, y'all, I love the tenets of modern Buddhism, where we are utilizing mindfulness and we're connecting with all the living things around us and we're slowing our brain down and we're getting really present in our motion, like we are right here, right now, and we're slowing that brain down. I love it. For me, that has been very healing. And I'm really looking forward to increasing my personal opportunities to engage in those practices from Buddhism. Like for me, Sarah Westbrook, I want to combine this community. Probably, for now at least, we're going to really engage at the church that's starting to seem like it's a good fit for our family. We're going to engage there. And then I'm also going to add in some tenets of Buddhism. But one of the tenets of Buddhism is reaching out for the things that are bigger than yourself and connecting with those things, people, animals, spaces, whatever it may be, to increase your wellness. And I love that because you are reaching out, but you're doing so from a place of I'm human, I'm natural, I'm normal, there's nothing wrong with me, so that you're connecting with your higher source rather than expecting your higher source to fix it without your, oh goodness, it's almost like without your will. Like we're giving our power away. I hate that part. And so anyway, we've got this, we see it in AA as they connect with their higher power. We see it in Christianity. We see it in people who really believe in the power of prayer or in meditation. We see it across all religions where when people engage and trust in a source, a higher source that is bigger than themselves, we see resiliency, we see connection, we see wellness coming out of that. And even those who practice atheism, who don't believe that there's a God or something else, but that really connect into the greater good of humanity, the things that they can't control, that they also experience this higher level of wellness, this connection and whatnot. And I need to, sit down and get some source material on some of these studies for y'all. So that's something when Mason listens to this, he'll remind me that I need to get online and connect you with some of this source material that I'm referring in some of these studies that I'm referring to. So The other issue that I see when we believe that we are broken and we need Jesus or God to come in and fix us is that phenomenon of spiritual bypassing. And it's a tendency if I'm like, hey, I'm broken and I'm, handing this over to God and he's going to fix it for me. What we see is this, like we put on blinders, or it's kind of like looking through, I grew up in Arizona, and when I go home in Phoenix, visit the Phoenix area, they have these really dark screens on their windows, and it helps to keep your home cool in the hot desert sun. But when I look out through that screen, everything is darker. And that's kind of like what spiritual bypassing is. We think that spiritual bypassing, or handing our issues over at God and putting them at the feet of God is going to bring us more light. But what it actually does is it releases us or others from the accountability and the power of identifying and understanding ourselves so that we can take accountability and make those changes from our own internal power source. And so what we think is bringing us more light, in my opinion, is bringing us more darkness. It's putting us in a place of helplessness. It's increasing anxiety. It's increasing depression, because when we're not able to understand ourselves and then take action and heal ourselves from within and owning our own power, like we talk about being empowered to make those changes on our own, which is so incredibly healing and brings us great joy, we're avoiding that part of our growth journey because we're expecting God to do it for us. Now, I'm a huge advocate of radical acceptance, which Mason and I are actually going to be doing a podcast on together here very soon. And radical acceptance might sound like turning things over to God, but really it comes down to that serenity prayer. And you've got to be really honest with yourself in this. And that is the accepting the things I cannot change. And so the difference between placing my burdens at the feet of, Jesus or what other higher source there is, accepting things, and this I am broken piece, is that when you think you are broken, you give your power away. But if I recognize that the way, we'll say, my dad treated me, I don't have the power to change the way my dad treats me. Therefore, I'm going to accept the fact that I can't change that. And then I'm going to turn that power back on to me and say, since I can't change my father, how can I respond differently so that I don't give my power away? I'm not going to lay that burden at Jesus' feet and say, hey, my dad won't change. I'm going to lay this problem at your feet, and I'm going to still engage with my dad with the hopes that Jesus is just going to fix it eventually. Jesus soften his heart, Jesus this, Jesus that. Still pray for those things, sure, but don't give your power away. If I say I can't change this outside thing, but I can recognize that this outside thing is having this impact on my life, I'm going to reach out to my higher power and say, something along the lines of, help me see the things that I need to see so that I can make changes and shift in my life. And then you really begin to dig in from that place of what I'm doing, thinking, experiencing right now isn't working for me. What might I shift so that I can have a different outcome for me? Or what barriers or boundaries might I need to put into place? For me, Sarah Westbrook, when I got to the place where I was ready to accept that I had done everything I could to invite my father to engage with my family differently, and that he was in a place where he could not or would not do that, I kept my power and said, I love you. I'm going to love you from a distance. We can't contact each other anymore because I need to protect myself and my children from the trauma that you continue to bring into our home. That is accepting what I can't change while keeping my power. And frankly, since I've cut off that contact, our entire family has been healthier and happier. And when we go and visit family in Arizona, and my kids know, hey, we're not having to go to Grandma and Papa Lee's house because that was overwhelming and stressful. We have more fun as a family because we've taken that piece off the table. It's been a positive thing for our family. And so I really want to dig in and challenge this idea that Christian churches teach that you're broken, because when they do that, what ends up happening is the authority figures in that religious organization or the organization itself maintains its power and control over you because you now need them to be happy. And that's not the same as connecting with your higher power so that you experience more happiness. I want you to recognize the subtle changes in the words that I'm using. You don't need a religious person, like a person in authority within a religious organization, or the organization itself to make you happy. But as you connect with a higher power, people report feeling more joy. It's subtle, but it's profound. One of the things that Stephen Hassens teaches about cults is that the way that they keep control over you is in this, oh goodness, let me see if I texted Mason the name of it. It's learned helplessness. That's what Stephen Hassens. I texted it to Mason last night so I wouldn't forget the terminology. But when we teach you are broken, you need somebody else, God or Jesus, to fix you, we are perpetuating learned helplessness. And I don't like that, because when you are in a position of I'm helpless and there's nothing I can do about it, and then that's compounded with this idea of be afraid because without this church, without this organization, without Jesus, without God, you are doomed. You won't be happy. You will be lost. You will be in darkness. You will be fill in the blank. What ends up happening is this power shift, which makes the organization more cult-like. And the more you see that power shift, the more that is preached and taught and embraced, the more culty the organization or the person in authority is going to get. They're going to have unhealthy power over you. It's something called undue influence. Whereas if you recognize my body was created the way it was created. My brain is here, and I'm talking about your neurotypical brains. Okay, so this is the majority of humanity. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. So if you are engaging in thoughts or behaviors or something that isn't working for you, it doesn't mean you're broken. That's your brain's way of saying, I'm protecting you, I'm keeping you alive. And we have to slow that system down so that we can dig into that neurobiology and say, hey, what's the perceived threat here? What's the message that I'm believing that maybe isn't serving me today the way it served me 5 years ago? That's that gaining better understanding. Because let's say that you're struggling with something like habitual lying, and you recognize that being chronically dishonest in your relationships is making it so that you don't have a lot of friends, or that all of your friendships are very superficial. You're not broken because you're lying. Somewhere along the line, your brain learned that lying was what was needed, that dishonesty was what you needed to survive. And as you address the issue at its core cause, your neurobiology begins to change and shift and adapt so that you can develop more integrity and honesty in your day-to-day interactions with people. And as you expose yourself to honesty and have that positive feedback, your brain heals. Not because it's broken. We're not talking about your brain is broken because of trauma. We're talking about your brain being in a heightened state of protectiveness, and that as you work through that, you begin to recognize, I no longer need this habit, behavior, thought process, whatever, to keep me safe. My environment is different today than it was before. And you have the power to change that. That's not broken. You're not broken. Your brain is doing exactly what it needs to do to keep you alive. And if you could see me right now talking, like my hands are flailing all over the place. And it's a really good thing that I have this mic filter, the pop filter on my mic, because I've spit into it so many times today because I'm all super passionate about what I'm saying to you. So I want you to recognize that your neurobiological and physiological responses are normal based on your experiences, your worldview, your belief systems, your culture, the traumas you've experienced, your experiential reality, your perceived reality, your objective reality. All of those words are different. We talk about objective and subjective truths. That's where we get into this vocabulary of my truth, your truth, the truth. Lots of different words moving on in here. But your neurobiology and physiology is responding exactly the way it was designed to respond based on all of those factors. And as you yourself dig into that to understand and explore and then reach out to connect with that higher power, whether that be God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, so on and so forth, that you will have more power to achieve what you are looking for and experience a deeper relationship with that higher power in ways that serve you better, that also keeps you in the driver's seat of your own mind, of your own critical thinking, of your life. I lived the first 38 years of my life giving my power away to the dogmas and practices of the Mormon Church, also known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it literally almost killed me. I became suicidal because I was so broken. I could not fix it. That's what I'm trying to protect you, my dear listener, from, is getting into that brain space where you are so overwhelmed by the things that are not going quote unquote perfect in your life, that toxic perfectionism that often comes as a result of high demand religion or really ingrained belief systems that are in place because of, it's the way that we've been doing religious traditions for eons and eons and eons. That spiritual bypassing makes it worse, not better. I want you to be able to shift your understanding so that you keep your power, so that you have more control over getting better, of your own healing, of your own wellness, so that you can connect and belong better in your chosen culture, your chosen families. And I believe in chosen family, y'all. Adoption and my army family has taught me. My chosen family is amazing. So whether you're choosing family that you share DNA with or not, that chosen family and your own higher power and your religious or cultural practices, I want all of that to work together for your good and your betterment. And we can do that as we understand ourselves, connect with ourselves, and then reach out to those higher powers, into those cultural and religious beliefs that support wellness and improvement. Y'all, thanks so much for listening today. We missed Mason. Mason, I love you so much. We're definitely going to do a quick check-in at some future episodes since you weren't here. So after Mason listens to this and connects me with those sources, we'll check in so that way he can kind of chime in because his voice is so valuable. And his voice really represents you, listener, because he's learning right along with you. And I'm learning with you too, just from a different perspective. Mason is like, when half the time that we get on here and we talk about these types of things, he's heard bits and pieces of my thoughts in the past, intermingled with distractions because we have so many kids and life is crazy and chaotic. And so when we sit down in these podcasts and we get to have these 90-minute discussions where we're really digging in, Mason's learning right along with you. From that, this is new information. And I'm learning right along with you. And are you wording that so that it's usable? And oftentimes I gain such great insight into myself. So thank you so much for your love and support. It's been great having you here today, and we will see you next time. Today's episode was hosted by Sarah Westbrook, produced by Daisy Girl Communications and Alex Vidalis. We would love to see you on our Unpacking Mormonism and Other Religious Trauma Facebook page. Today's music provided by Run to Life and John Worthy Music. Our experience as a family, as we have recently, that was a German squirrel. Okay, I can still squirrel without my husband here, just so you guys know. I am a squirreler. I feel like I need to get some sort of like little squirrel chitter something to go in. So every time I squirrel, you guys get a little noise or something. It would be totally annoying. So maybe not.
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Oh, 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 O'Reilly.